have the other ones available in there.
Wait.
But
What? So, Luke, what are you drinking today? Coca-Cola.
Morning on the way to the gym and set my ukulele on top of the car and then drove off down the road.
That's going to be the bow after that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. Look at that.
I learned my lesson from last time. What a welcome, thank you. I drink the most fruity drinks imaginable.
It's laundry day.
it's laundry day.
So you always wear hats with laundry day.
I'm here to do you a favor, Jens. As you say, later.
So how did you two meet?
Well, there's these places in San Francisco. I think they're called bathhouses.
It's like one of those things where everyone wants to focus on like the big events that happen, but day to day, what we're doing is we're on like one of our draw streams, smoking weed, making comics. It's chill. It's so much fun, and like
Yes. Man, I'm not a YouTuber. I do this because I want to sell comic books. Bam! Dang! Yes! Yes, guys! It is Sunday. It is Sunday, guys. This means another episode of A Drink with Brink, where I talk with other indie creators about their hopes and their dreams and their lives, but also their creations and their campaigns and their books. And because, guys, frankly, I'm kind of bored with mainstream. Mainstream kind of sucks. And indie is where the passion is. All right, guys. Guys, it's freaking hot. It's freaking hot. So the window is open. Everything is open. I have the air conditioning on. But this room, it's like a small room, like my work chamber. It's freaking hot, guys. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it. All right, guys. As some of you know, I was supposed to have a live campaign right now. Yes, so because we had planned to launch our Safeguard campaign on Kickstarter yesterday. But Kickstarter, so first it needs to be approved by Kickstarter, and Kickstarter had not approved it. They came back with some comments about the campaign. Apparently, some of the images were a little bit too spicy. So this is the first time ever that this happened to me. So I'm like, okay, what's spicy about it? But fine. So I edited some pages, put some censorship markers there. So and I had that done basically within the hour of them contacting me, and I haven't heard from them since. So I was hoping that we could still launch yesterday. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I hope, I'm guessing they will get back to me next week. So then, so for now, the schedule for now is that we will launch next Saturday. So this Saturday, right? So fingers crossed, guys. And Alan Goldman will be with me live. The artist, Alan Goldman. We will do this together. All right, guys. Hey, Mike. Mike is in the chat. Hello, Mike. Good day and drink to you, Dave. It's storming rain over here. And since last night until tomorrow morning, hope your vacation's been enjoyable. It has been, yes. Yes, but storming rain, that's crazy. It's like we could use some right now, right here. So so it's rained since last night until morning. That's a long time. I hope the weather is better now and you're comfortable and you have your drink ready, Mike. And thank you for being here. And so, guys, if you're watching, just please send out this link to this stream. We have a brand new guest to the show. They've been on the show before, so I can introduce you to new people and new people to you, right? So let's get this done. Let's do this. Let's bring on the guest of the hour. Yes, I'm ready. All right, guys, let's do this. Let's have a very warm welcome for the guest of the hour, Mr. John Holland.
Thank you. That was a nice welcome.
Welcome, John.
I'll piggyback on your one commentator. We just had that tropical storm, Arthur. I live down in Louisiana, so we've had rain for the last. Today's one of the few days that we finally have sun out and it's drying up.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had some rain the last few days.
Oh wow, yeah! Holy shit! So now it finally passed, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. Last week, my guest last week, he had like a thunderstorm going on, and it caused some issues with our connection.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, yeah. Because I'm from Europe, you're from you said the United States, right? So it's a miracle that things even work right now. So, welcome, John, says Mike. All right, sir. Before we talk about anything else, John, I need to ask you the first official question.
All right.
What are you drinking?
Iced tea.
Iced tea. That's perfect. That's great. Iced tea. Okay. You have a favorite flavor also, or just
lemon flavored iced tea.
Lemon flavor. All right, sir.
Sun tea. You know, I live in the South, and in the South, iced tea is like that's our national drink.
Oh yeah, really? You have a national drink, right? Okay, right. So John, nice to meet you. Can you tell us? We never met before, right? So can you tell me and the viewers a little bit about yourself? Who are you, and what do you do?
I am a writer and publisher. I started writing comics back in the 80s. Well, I started getting published in the 80s. I was published for with a lot of the little indie, well, not so little, but some of the indie publishers like Fantagraphics and Kitchen Sink and Innovation. I did the Christmas issue of their adaptation of Quantum Leap, the TV series. I had Sam jump into Santa Claus.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, I worked in the beginning before I worked with Sam Keith, who went on to create the Max and did a lot of work for Marvel and DC. He and I started kind of trying to break in together. I've got like about 4 or 5 stories that short stories that we worked on together, and then he went on to became Sam Keith famous and doing a lot of work for other people. So
right,
did a lot of work, like I said, for a lot of the indies at the time. Then took a break around 2000, came back and started publishing my own comics. I went back and reprinted some of the old stuff I did, started doing some new stuff. I still work with, I've worked with Antarctica Press and a few other indie publishers. I just signed a contract with Source Point Press about a month ago for a comic, for a trade coming out. It probably won't come out till next year, but that was pretty cool. But I still do. I think I just sent a book to the printer a couple weeks ago, and it was number 26 for Diebold Comics. So I've published about 26 books so far.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I try to keep pretty busy. So far since the year started, last year was a slow year for me. I don't think I did anything new last year, which there was a lot of just reasons for. But this year I'm on my 4th or 5th book right now. So I'm trying to make up for lost time. So trying to get some stuff out. So I'm still looking. I'm willing to work with other publishers and publish my own stuff. So I try to keep busy, try to stay busy. I work in almost all genres. When we talk about my FundMyComic later, you'll see like I've got science fiction, horror, slice of life, comedy. I get bored really easy. I like to, I don't stick with one thing. I kind of jump all over the place, which is good and bad. I think, sometimes I wonder, if I'd stuck with one book, I could have like maybe 26 issues out of one character.
Yes, I know.
And again, I don't know if I would have lasted that long with it. So, I mean, I like doing different things. I'll get an idea for something and, and I get impatient and I want to get it out as quick as possible. Sometimes I have to, wait because you know, I can only get so many artists. I can only pay so much to get stuff done. You know,
Yes.
if I had unlimited money, I'd probably have like 15 artists right now working on projects. But
I know, man. I recognize that. Welcome, Scribe Comics. Welcome, sir. Welcome. So does this mean? So you said you were kind of impatient, right? So does this also mean that you don't really work on longer running titles? You prefer like shorter stories?
I do both. You know, I've got a couple. I've got one series, Lizards, that's on issue 6 right now. I've got a couple issues that are on issue 2. So, you know, I do both, but the problem is, you know, when I start trying to do like a continuing story, I'll do a couple issues like Akimi, which we just did this year so far. I've done 2 issues of it, but we've taken a break to do a few other things, and then we're going to go back to it. It's
right.
You know, I try to, you know, combine the two. You know, I like doing regular, you know, like a continuing storyline, but I also like doing one shots and just getting some, you know, I'm doing it's kind of a series called 2 Tons of Fury, which is more of a comedy. It's using some public domain characters. We did 2 issues of that, and we're working on a 3rd, but there's no, you know, we do that when we come up with an idea, and when we, you know, there's not a lot of continuity between the issues. They're more standalone, so we don't have to worry so much about, you know, getting them out in any length of time. We did 1 issue, and then we actually did an issue with Antarctica Press where they team up, the characters team up with Tomorrow Girl from Ben Dunn's Antarctica Press.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we did some work for Antarctic Press also. So we had this crossover also. We had this character called Earthling, and it crossed over with Ninja High School.
Okay, yeah.
You probably know that, right? Yeah.
Ben's one of the nicest guys in the business, I think.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Ben's cool.
Ben is cool. Absolutely. So you said you started to you wanted to break into comics together with Sam Keith, and he went his way. You went to a different direction. You kind of paused things, and in 2000 you started again.
Yeah, I think around the midnight. Well, yeah, probably around the midnight.
If I remember correctly,
I took a little pause. You know, I kind of reached my point. I think at that time, you know, I'd been published, like I said, in a lot of the indie comics. I actually self-published 2 issues of a comic, and then I kind of you know, stopped for a little while. I kind of got burned out. Kind of concentrated on my job. You know, I think we all have, you know, full-time jobs somewhere. And then I just, you know, and I knew it wasn't going to last because I always want to write. Even when I wasn't writing, I was thinking of stuff. So finally, I decided to, you know, get back into it. And when I got back into it, I was basically, my first thought was I was going to republish some of the stuff that I had printed through the indie publishers in the 90s. So most of that was in the black and whites, you know, because most, you know, I was coming up a lot during the black and white boom. So I wanted to color it and put it out. So the first thing I did was look for a colorist, and the first book I put out was Diebold Comics, which had been originally in black and white.
Bible Comics?
Diebold that was the title of the story. It starred Ed the Talking Head. He's lost his body, but he ain't dead. So it's more of a comedy, but and that's where I actually got the name for the company from too, Diebold. You know, but so I looked for an artist, and I found an artist, Javier Lapara, who not an artist, a colorist who colored the book for me, and we got to talking, and he mentioned that he was an artist too. So I was like, oh, cool. So I created a new character, Ayla, Speaker for the Dead, and we did 4 issues of that. We did one story arc for her. And then then it became kind of I'd reprint stuff, print new stuff, you know, it's kind of a combination of the two, you know, as we went on. I had a lot of the stuff colored, some of the new stuff, which is kind of funny now. A lot of the stuff I do print lately has been black and white, mainly for financial reasons. It's a lot, you know, less expensive for black and white. But then this year so far, Akimi that I've done and Vampires versus Zombies are in color. So it's still a combination of two. You know, I'll do black and white. You know, I think black and white fits some storylines really well. You know, I like using black and white, but then, you know, color has its place too. And, you know, most comic readers, I think, are more inclined to pick up a comic if it's in color too.
This is true, but it also depends on the art style. Some art styles lend themselves very well for black and white, but others don't.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. By the way, welcome Marinus from Cosmonaut Comics. Welcome, Marinus. Guys, go subscribe to Cosmonaut Comics YouTube channel. He does daily comic book reviews. So, and soon he will review a Perfect 10-6 because it's on its way to you, sir. Right. All right. So, but you said you not only did you republish your older work, but you also started to publish other people's work. Is that correct?
No, I haven't published anybody else's. It's all just been my work. So
okay, right.
Yeah, I haven't did anybody else's work because I just, you know, I'm too busy concentrating on getting my own stuff out there right now.
Yes. Yeah, because I was wondering. People sometimes approach me. They have like this concept, this comic, and they ask me, "Hey, I would like to publish this. This is something for German comics." And I'm always like, sometimes it's so good, and I really have to think about it. But it's like a completely different job, right?
Yes.
And I rather focus on making the best comics that I can make without having to worry about other people's books, right?
Yeah. I have the same thing where people will come up and say, "Hey, you know, you want to publish this comic?" And I'm just, you know, I have enough problems or enough, you know, it's hard enough to publish my own stuff that I'm not at the point where I don't want to take on somebody else and, you know, maybe mess up their work or, you know, for now it's going to be pretty much just me.
Yes. Mike says, and Gemini Crusaders art is complete onto lettering, close to finished. Excitement. That's good news. That's really, really good news. Yeah, I love it when other creators finish their projects. You know, starting a project, we all know how much work this is. Like making one book, it's a tremendous task. And then it's done. And then the next job begins because you have to sell it, right? Yes.
I think in some ways that's the hardest job is to get it out there. You know, we were talking a little about that before the show, you know, just promoting it and trying to sell it.
Well, it is the hardest job because it's not where our passion lies. You know, we are writers, we are creators, we love to create stories. So that kind of happens.
Yes.
And then the book has been made, but then you have to do the marketing and the promotion and all that stuff that you don't really want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, man. So so now you said you published 26 books. So these are 26 like stories that you wrote.
Yes.
That's so how did you learn to write? Was it just a matter of reading a lot of comics and absorbing the comic book language, or what's your process?
I think it was just reading from a very young age. I think I started reading when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. You know, I've always I don't remember a time when I wasn't reading. You know, I love my dad was a big reader. He was always reading. And from there, you know, when I was, I think like 4 or 5 years old, my parents enrolled me in a book club, like for kids, for like Dr. Seuss and stuff like that. So I was getting a book every other month or something.
Right.
Then, you know, when I got older, after I got my first job, I joined like the science fiction book club, the mystery book club, so I could buy as many books as I could at the time. And I still spend too much money on books. You know, that's, you know, one of my passions. And along the way, you know, I started reading comics probably about the same age. And, you know, I've always loved comics. I started reading like, you know, the Four Musketeers or the Three Musketeers, Casper the Ghost, all those comics. Kind of moved into DC for a little while. I remember when they were doing those 100-page specials, or, you know, and then I moved into Marvel. And for a while, I was what you'd call, you know, a Marvel zombie. That's all I read was Marvel comics. You know, I was, you know, probably reading pretty much everything they put out. But then probably around the time when the direct market started, like when Eclipse Comics and First Comics and Pacific Comics and all those comic companies came out, I started reading more, the indie publishers, and from there I've moved. Now it's more rare if I pick up a Marvel or DC. Most of my reading is done through indie comics. I read a few DC. I don't think I hardly read any Marvel at the moment. There's a few DC I read, and most of the other stuff is the indie books. So
Right.
it's there's good writing in every company has a few something that is worth reading. But and just from the reading, I think it just I always like to read, and it's just one of my biggest people I like to read was Harlan Ellison. He was a fantasy writer. He wrote mostly short stories. He wrote stories like, if I don't know how familiar, he's not that well known anymore. His books have kind of went out of print. But he wrote like Repent Harlequin, so the TikTok Man, I Have No Mouth and Must Scream. He wrote the short story A Boy and His Dog that the movie was based on. It was very, very good short story writer. But in his collections, he would write introductions to all his short stories. And his introductions sometimes were as longer than his stories. I mean, and he would talk about his life and about how he wrote the story and where he got the idea and what was going on in his life. And I think seeing that kind of behind the scenes of what a writer was like kind of started the emphasis of me wanting to write. I started reading that and going like, that's pretty cool. Some of that is not that far off. If he could do it, maybe I can do it, So, I think that, and just reading comics, and I always wanted, in the beginning, of course, I was a big Marvel reader. So it's like, oh, if I could write Spider-Man, or if I could write the Avengers or Captain America. And, but, as I went on, I found, I like writing my own type of stories more than, superheroes. I write a few things that might be considered superheroes. And I'm not saying if Marvel came to me tomorrow and said, hey, we want you to write Spider-Man, I don't know if I probably would take a crack at it.
Sure. Yeah.
But, my goal is not like, I'm not like out there trying to break into Marvel or anything. I'm just, I'd be happy if I could just get my books where I can make enough money to keep publishing my books and paying my artists and just, continuing.
Yes.
So, I like doing that more than, the other side.
I get that, man. Welcome, Grey Wolf Graphics. Welcome. Nice to see you. Right. So, did you also write like short stories, like no comic books, but?
Yeah, I have. I've written a few over the time. Some reason I find it's easier to write a comic story than a short story. But
why is that?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I just, I find it easier, when I sit down to write the comic. There's been a few. I've started experimenting more with some short stories. I've written a few recently, so I think I'm getting back into it.
Okay.
I think it's two different. It's two different. Styles. You have to a short story and a comic story, and I think I just wasn't ready enough or good enough, when I was trying to write the short stories. I just, but I seem to, concentrate more on the comic side, of writing. But
sure.
Like I said, I've started writing a few short stories, and I'm going to keep experimenting with that, and see where that leads. That would be a lot easier, to be honest, because I wouldn't have to hire an artist or anybody.
Yeah, that's true. So what? I was
gonna say, but then you don't get to see the story brought to life. You don't get to see the illustrations. You don't. I was talking about that with somebody when we talked about Sam Keith. I think because I'd written a little appreciation of Sam for this some magazine. Since Sam just passed not too long ago, and I remember back in the day was before the internet. Everything we communicated with was either through the telephone or through the mail. And like we would talk about the story, then I would write it, send it to him, he would draw it, and he would send it to me. And I can still remember those days walking to the mailbox, and when I'd open that mailbox and see a big envelope in there, and it had Sam's return address on it, and I'd be like so excited, I'd be tearing open the thing and just pulling the pages out, the copies of his artwork and seeing that. And it was like, there's just such an excitement seeing your words turned into, art, seeing that turned into something, seeing your words brought to life.
Can people still get those books that you made together with Sam?
Yeah, in fact, when we get to the FundMyComic, I have a comic on there called Snapshots. It's a collection of my comic book short stories. It's like 64 pages, and all 5 Sam Keith stories are in there.
Cool.
4 of the stories have been reprinted from Fantagraphics I-Before-E, but I think that's out of print now too. But the 5th story that Sam did with me, I don't think has ever been reprinted either, except by me. So so they're all in there. So
okay, great. So what other venues do you have to sell your material besides crowdfunding platforms?
Crowdfunding, I have a Substack that I sell through. I also have a buy me a coffee that I use, kind of a shop. I'm on Global Comics. I had to think for a minute. I'm on Global Comics, so you can buy my digital comics from there. Sure. So I'm kind of, and I'm on a few other sites that where I'll post stuff that you can buy it, and I'm always posted on all the social media, about the comics, and you can always DM me, personally, like especially the Sam Keith comics. I've just actually posted on a Sam Keith fan site about the Snapshot story, and I've been selling those just through DMs. People selling through it.
That's smart. A fan site. They want to have that.
I wish I thought of that years ago. I mean, some reason I never thought. I was like, wait a minute, Sam Keith website. I have Sam Keith. I have Sam Keith books that a lot of people have never seen these stories. So so that's helping. So I post everywhere, and I'm like I said. It's easy, and I do a lot of conventions. I do a lot of conventions.
Oh, you do? Yeah, I was about to ask, but you do conventions.
Oh yeah, next month I think I've got a convention almost every week. So now one of them is San Diego, and I'm not going to San Diego to sell but I go to San Diego more to network and talk to editors and publishers.
Oh sure.
But all the other ones, I've got one in South Louisiana. I've got one in Florida. I just did one in Texas not too long ago. So
a lot of travel.
Yeah, I do a lot of travel. I'm retired. I don't have a job anymore. So even when I had a job, I would do conventions like on week. I would try to do. I couldn't do as many because I work in retail, so I didn't get a lot of weekends off. So that's where most conventions are. But I would squeeze them in. But now that I don't have a job, I do as many conventions as I can. So I try to get out there, and I do a lot of library shows. Library shows have become like the best shows for me.
Library shows?
Yeah.
What is that?
That's like where the local library will put on a convention. They do like a lot of them will do like a little comic convention where they'll invite people in. And the good thing is most libraries don't charge for this. They don't charge you a table cost. They'll just bring in as many people as they can. They'll promote it, through their library, and then on the day of the library show, I see a lot of people at library shows that don't normally go to comic conventions. And the good thing is if they're in a library, they probably like to read. So, they're more inclined, to buy comics and stuff. I do a lot better at library shows than almost any other convention. I've had a few good conventions, but library shows have become, really good for me. So I've been searching out as many library shows as I can find to do.
I bet. Yeah. Strange. I never heard of it before, but apparently that's a thing. So
I had never heard of it until about 2 years ago. And and the funny thing is, the parish I live in doesn't do library shows, so I have to travel outside of my parish to go to do a library show. For some reason, they don't do comic conventions, but almost every other one within driving distance, I've been going to. But once I found out about it and did my first one, and the cool thing is, some of these shows I've done, I have more return people coming back to me, said, hey, I was here last year and I bought these from you, and I want to buy, now I want to buy these more
Yes.
than some of the other shows I've done, So yeah, library shows are really cool. If you've never did a library show, I highly recommend it if there's any within any area that you can do one.
Cool, man. All right. It is time to dive into your campaign. You have something up on FundMyComic. Let's bring it up. So there it is. The Die Bolt Comics Digital Library. So this campaign is purely for your digital.
Digital only, no printing. I
Right.
thought about it a while back, and I've noticed, like on Kickstarters, a lot of the Kickstarters, almost up to 20 to 30% sometimes of a Kickstarter is digital. More and more people are just buying the digital versions of the stuff.
Yes,
and
that is true.
I figured, well, it's worth a shot. There's a lot of advantages to this because, one, I'm only charging $5 for a digital copy of all my single issues. For the trades are only $10, and then I have some bundles, and I have one bundle that you can't beat the price. It brings the comics down to like about $1.80 a piece. But so the price is really well. All the comics are 100% done, so you don't have to worry about waiting for me to finish the comic. You don't have to wait for me to ship the comic. You don't have to wait for the comic to be shipped. So as soon as the campaign is over, as quick as I can send out emails, people will get their books. So everybody should get their books within a week to 2 weeks, at the latest. So I thought there was a lot of pluses for this. Unfortunately, the campaign's not doing that well. I don't know if it's the site isn't as FundMyComics isn't as well known as Kickstarter. It doesn't get as lot of the views that Kickstarter gets. So
Well, yeah, with FundMyComic, you don't really get that organic traffic
Yeah.
which you would get from the other platforms, right? So you do need to really push your campaign.
I wanted to experiment with some of the other campaigns. My next campaign that's coming out is going to be on Kickstarter. So I'm not leaving Kickstarter, but I just want to kind of experiment to see if I can get any traction somewhere else. Now my first bundle on there, you can see $50 and you get everything on there. I think it's 15 or 16 comics. I've lost count now, and 3 trades. So for $50, you get all of that. That ends up being like about $1.85 an issue for all the comics. That's a pretty good deal, I think. You're getting, like I said, you're getting science fiction, you're getting horror, you're getting fantasy, you're getting comedy, you're getting slice of life. Like I said, I write it all. I'm all over the place as far as my writing. Death World is an adaptation of a Harry Harrison novel. That's one of the trades. It was a 4-issue miniseries originally, and that's adapting the novel by Harry Harrison. Alma is What If Buffy Was a 72-year-old grandmother.
All right. So these are just like these little ideas that you get, and they spawn this story, right?
Yeah. Well, Alma was kind of funny. The way I got the idea from that was from Facebook. There was I don't even know what Facebook group it was in. I was in one of those groups, and I was just scrolling through, and somebody made a comment about, in fantasy, the hero is always usually the young, strong, male protagonist.
Yes.
And he made a comment that was like, well, why can't the protagonist be somebody's grandma for once?
Yes.
And everybody, all the comments were joking about it. People were coming up with all these ideas, but when I read it, my mind went a completely different direction. It took it seriously. I was like, wow, what if instead of the powers going to the 16-year-old cheerleader, they went to the 72-year-old grandma that was out in her yard gardening, and she gets hit with the powers. And as absurd or comical as the idea sounds, it's actually taken serious. She's out there fighting, the monsters and the demons and the vampires and everything else. Now there is some comedy in it. Her companion that kind of comes when she gets the powers is a 3-foot talking garden gnome. So most of my serious writing always has some type of comedy relief or something absurd in it. One of my biggest influences is Steve Gerber, who created Howard the Duck. And you know, I loved his writing, and I think he was a big influence in my writing. So, and he was always putting some of that absurdity or some of that comedy in almost everything he wrote.
Right. Yeah. So, guys, I put the link to the campaign in the chat. It's also below the video, so you can find it there. So I happen to notice, John, that the images that are displayed here, they have a certain graininess to them. Is that actually the style of the books, of your publishing formula, or is it something that just happens?
I think it just happens. I don't think
Okay. I thought maybe it was a style choice, but it's like
no, because some of them are like I said, 2 Tons of Fury is more of a comedy book, and it's drawn more in like the style of the early '60s. It's Herbie the Fat Fury and Fat Man the Human Flying Saucer. So with those characters, it's not taken very serious, and
all right.
It's a very everything happens in that book, and we have some other public domain characters in that issue too.
Yeah, the two Tons of Fury, the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah, that's the characters that we actually had the crossover with Tomorrow Girl from Antarctica Press with.
Ah, okay, cool. Then we have Voodoo. Yeah,
that's a little short history of Voodoo.
Okay, yeah, there's a nice variety going on here. Crenshaw, welcome, sir. Welcome. We're talking today with John Holland about his own publications. So John writes his comics, he publishes his own comics, and you can get them all here in digital format through this campaign on FundMyComic.
A Girl and Her Dog, when it was published, Tony Isabella, who was the creator of Black Lightning for DC Comics and did work for Marvel and DC, he said that was one of the best comics of the year that it came out.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's fantastic. When you get like feedback from people you respect, these people know what they're talking about.
When I had sent him a copy of the comic, and when I opened his blog one day, I was actually at work when I opened it, and I could see the cover of the comic on his blog, and I was kind of hesitant. I was like, "Oh my God, do I want to read it?" I'm like, because you don't know if he likes it or doesn't like it, and I didn't want to, read that, he didn't like it, But when I read it, it was like the best review that you could imagine. So I was like, oh. And it made me feel good, especially since I was at work too,
Yeah. Absolutely. That made your day. So how many pages are these comics on average?
The shortest is 24 pages. I do at least A Girl and Her Dog is 24 pages. Alma is 48 pages. That's one of the advantages of, publishing my own work is when I'm writing a comic. Like there's another comic up there called The Getaway Driver. Originally, it started out as 24 pages, but as I was writing it, I realized I was going to need more pages to finish it. So then I had to make the decision: do I want to try to make it 2 issues, or But I thought, well, 2 issues is a little more pages than I want. I'd have to kind of pad it out. So it ended up being 32 pages. I ended up being able to add 8 more pages and basically just make it, a single issue.
Sure.
So that's the good thing about publish my own work is I'm not tied down to, okay, you have to write, a 24 page book or a 20 page book. If it goes longer than that, you have to do another issue. Now there's been other works I've done that I ended up going into a second issue because, I realized it needed to grow. But, I always write whatever the story, I write whatever the story requires, because I'm not a big outliner. I don't start my story like knowing what every beat's going to be and every page is going to be. I usually start with the beginning of the story, and usually I know kind of what the ending is going to be. That's not always true either.
Yes.
And I kind of have some points throughout, but as I write, there's been plenty of times when I've been writing and I thought, okay, I'm going to go from this point to this point. But when I get halfway there, I realize, oh no, I got to veer to the left or to the right.
Yeah.
And before I get to that point, so it makes it more fun to write when I, and as I write, things open up, and sometimes I realize, okay, this is going to be a little different than when I originally, thought it was going to be.
Yes, but I think this kind of ties in your habit that you told me you got bored quickly.
Yeah.
So if you construct your story beforehand, then you don't feel like writing it for a second time,
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yes.
true. Yeah. If you have, to me, I think if I outlined it and wrote down all the beats and everything, that would feel like the story before I even started writing the story.
Yes,
So
I'm the same way, man. I write the same way. Right. So, Elma, yeah, these covers are pretty nice, by the way. So how do you go about finding your artists? Is that purely through conventions?
No, there's in the beginning, and this makes nobody will find people like this. But when I first started, it was before the internet, before anything like that. So there was a newspaper that was called the Comics Buyer's Guide that came out weekly, and basically that's where all the news about comics was published. They would publish like what was coming up and whatever the rumors or whatever was going on. But they had a classified section in the ad section in the back, and I used to advertise in that looking for artists, and I found artists through that. That's how I met Sam Keith. Looking through an ad.
Right.
Nowadays that's gone. But so now I found not almost every artist that I've been working through Facebook.
Yeah.
I know Facebook's not the greatest site in the world. There's a lot to talk bad about Facebook, but there's some good things about Facebook. Facebook has a lot of groups,
Yes.
comic book artists looking for writers looking for artists. And I would just go on some of these sites and I would post, hey, I'm looking for an artist for an upcoming comic. And then, you end up getting like about 1,000,
I know,
people.
man. Your inbox blows up.
But
Yeah.
then it's just kind of like going through and kind of weeding out the ones that are serious. Some of them are going to want more money than I can afford, and that's
Sure.
fine. I don't try to, like, if somebody wants to, so much money and I can't afford it, I don't try to say, hey, work with me and we'll work. That's they create what they feel is their worth as an artist, and that's great.
Right.
So first I have to find artists that within my pay range, and then now though it's getting harder because I'm scared of finding artists that are using AI. I don't want. So there's been a few artists that have contacted me that I just their styles they just look too much like AI that I wasn't going to touch with a 10-foot pole.
At some point you get suspicious, right?
Yeah, and especially when you have an artist. Yeah, I know artists can draw in every style, some of them, but when you have an artist that basically is like every style in the world, they're showing their style and stuff. It's just, most artists kind of concentrate in certain styles and stuff.
Yes,
but,
I prefer that when I look up a portfolio of this artist and has one specific style, then I know what I'm going to get.
Yeah,
but
and if that style fits. Yeah, if the style fits your story or whatnot. Now, because the newest artist, the one that's working on that worked on Akimi and is working on Vampires versus Zombies with me is Jorge. I found him, through Facebook. He was actually one of the first artists when about the beginning of the year, I had started looking for an artist, and when I had posted, he was one of the first artists that answered my post. And at first I kind of like, let me keep looking. I'm not sure if, his style is what I want. So I kept going back to it. I'd be looking at other people and I'd go back to his post and I'd be like, that's actually really good. I like that art. So I was like, okay, I know when I'm beat. I know this is what I want. So
which comic was that?
It's Akimi. We did 2 issues of Akimi, and he's also the artist on Vampires versus Zombies right now too.
This one.
That one, yes.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, he is. He draws. I just love his style. It's and some of the looks on some of the characters' faces he draws is just amazing. I think he has some little draw art looks on him that just fit the story so well.
Right. So when you write a story, a script, do you already know what kind of art you want with it, or is it just like you will see, right?
Sometimes I may have an idea, but like with Akemi, I really did not. I had written Akemi before. Well, I'd written about half of the script before I started looking, before I come across Jorge. And originally, I wouldn't have thought of his art style for that book. You know, it wasn't like what was in my mind. And that's why I think, you know, when he first posted, I kind of passed. But then when I kept going back and looking at it, and it felt like it would work really well with it. You know, he draws his characters. He gives a certain fluidity to his characters and their movements and stuff that I thought really came across well with the book. So,
sure.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes I may have something in mind, but then when I see the artist, whatever I had in mind may go right out the window.
Right. When I browse through your catalog, it looks like every book has its own artist. Is that true? Do you sometimes like hire artists for other titles also?
There's a lot of different artists, but I do like, you know, like I was saying, going back to Jorge, he's done 3 books with me right now.
Oh yeah.
Alma Hernan did it, and he's done a couple books with me. So, you know, I'll get latch onto an artist, and I may use them for a couple books, but I do use other artists. Like Robot Sex was Roman has did the art in that.
Yeah.
I always tell people it's not X-rated. There's a lot of robots, but no sex in the book. I was looking for a title that would, you know, just jump out at people. And,
well, it does, man. Look, man, when you decide to go to Kickstarter, make one spicy cover for this title, and it'll sell gangbusters. Absolutely. Well, the art is it's really nice. It is.
Yeah, one advantage when I see Snapshots is the book that I was talking about, the short stories. It's 64 pages. The 2 pages you see right there are both by Sam Keith. The page on the middle page is a 4-page story that we did. It was actually probably one of his earliest pieces, and it was my first published story. It was published in the back of Bill Loeb's Journey, which was published by Fantagraphic Comics. And then the other story is from a character we created called Agatha Moore, and we did 2 stories with her, and it ended up being in a book called Amazing Comics Premieres, I think, or Amazing Premieres, or something like that. I think it was Amazing Comics Premieres.
All right.
It was in. So there's 5 stories in that by Sam, in addition to other artists. But like I said, 4 of the stories were reprinted in Fantagraphics I Before E, which I think that's out of print now. And the 5th story was penciled by Dave Garcia, who created PandaCon, and it was inked by Sam. And that story has never been reprinted anywhere else that I know of. Except for in here. So if you're seeing, you know, this is a great, you know, plus there's a lot of other good artists in there. One of the things that I think I'm really proud of is that I've worked with some really, really good artists. I've been able to work with some artists that are just amazing. Sam Keith, I worked with him. He became famous. Hernan, who drew Alma, is working for IDW right now. He's drawing Star Trek. You know, he's moving.
Oh, cool.
He's just doing some really cool stuff. So
cool, man.
Maybe I should, when I talk to artists, I should tell them, look, work with me for a couple years and you may become famous.
Yeah. Sometimes it goes that way. Yes, absolutely. The Getaway Driver.
Yeah, that's my crime story. That's the one we were talking about where it had started out 24 pages and ended up becoming 32 pages. So
I really like this cover where you see it from the POV of the main character.
Yeah, that
really
cool. That cover, I actually, usually I leave the cover up to the artist. I don't really tell them. That one I actually asked them to do that because, and I can't remember what comic I got the idea from, but the cover is supposed to be like the first part of the story because you go from that and then you go to where she's in the car, so it's kind of like the first scene in the comic. There was a comic that did that where it started on the cover and then it basically just went to the next the first page, So, you know, that was the premise behind that. But usually I let the artist kind of do whatever they want on the cover. Now, the next comic, 2 Tons of Fury, that was by a friend of mine, Larry Gidry, who did the art. And he actually was doing like recreations of like 60s comic book characters. He's a big fan of the old, like the 60s of the Justice Society. And he's a huge fan of Herbie. And this actual cover, he just drew up and he sold on eBay. He was like drawing up things like, you know, imaginary covers.
Oh,
And
really?
when I seen this cover, it just like, I was like, I want to do something with that cover. And he'd been after me for years. He wanted me to write a story with Herbie. And I kept saying, no, I don't want to do it. And when I seen that cover, I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I want to do it.
Why didn't you want to do it in the beginning?
I don't know. It was public domain character. I kind of like wanted to work on my own characters. I knew Herbie, but I wasn't sure if I could, you know, Herbie is a very different character. And I didn't know if I could really capture his, you know, his speech and his character.
Yes.
But, you know, when I seen this cover, I was like, nope, I've got it. I know the story. I know what I'm going to do. And I actually wrote that script for that book in like a day. I got on my porch. I've got my little podium where I write off of. Yeah. And I just sat out there for the day and just wrote it. It just came to me. And it all fell in place. That's not the norm. You know, I don't usually write a story in one day. I have once or twice. You know, I've written some stories that's taken me months to finish, you know, so
yes.
I don't want to come across like, oh, I can sit down and just write this story, you know, but that story just came to me so quick. And, you know, so like I said, that's the characters that we did a crossover with Antarctica Press. And we're working on a 3rd issue where 2 Tons of Fury with the 2 main characters meet Cthulhu.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it's
cool, man. That's a weird crossover.
Oh yeah, and there's no, like I said, there's nothing in it that you take serious. It's all like, you know, everything in it is just, you know, humor and just gags and pranks and everything else.
Wow, you have a lot going on this campaign. And each of these books has their own like perk here on the right, correct? So each of these books you can get for $5.
Except for the trades. Like there's, I think 3 books in there that the trades, those are $10. But the trades all have at least 4 issues in them. So basically you're getting 4 issues for an extra $5. You're getting 3 extra issues for $5.
Yes. This one says the first 5 issues even.
Yeah.
So for $10, 5 issues, that's a steal, guys.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
Yeah. And then that's the newest issue of Lizards that's not in the trade. So you know, you get the first 5 issues in the trade, and then you can get the newest issue too. Right.
Lizards. What's that about?
Lizards is kind of a story about family. They just happen to be lizards in the far future. But it's mainly, you know, the main character is a dad, his son, his oldest daughter, and his youngest daughter. And they're just stories about family, you know, about, you know, the daughter getting fed up being like basically having to take care of everybody, the son and the father arguing. It actually, Lizard started in Fantagraphics, published an anthology, a funny animal anthology back in the 90s called Critters. And Lizards actually started in Critters. You know, I had stories in a bunch of issues of that. And so when I started publishing, I took a lot of those stories and started just putting them in, you know, individual issues. And then, you know, after I did 5 issues, I did the trade, and then I've continued the storyline. And I hope to just continue the stories and just keep publishing it, because it's a fun story for me. It's a fun, you know, fun characters.
Cool. So basically, it's a family drama, but it happens to be lizards.
Yeah, it's a family drama set in a future Earth. It's kind of like, you don't really, you know, there is humans in it, but there's really no big cities or anything like that. You know, they're talking lizards. There's some talking vultures in it, different talking animals. But you know, the main thrust of the storyline is the family, is family stories. There's no, you know, like there's nobody in there like shooting. There's no big explosions. There's no big fights, anything like that. It's like, you know, it's arguments between the father and the son, or between, you know, the son and, like, other kids his age or whatever. There's, it's just, it's a family story just told, with lizards.
Sure. Mike says, good stuff, John, because there is still its own place in the industry for fun, humorous comics like that, always.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that.
And welcome, Pops. Nice to see you, Pops. Welcome. So why exactly did you choose to write this, put lizards in the, like, where you could have used humans, basically, right? So why did you chose to tell it this way?
I think a couple of reasons. One of the reasons, and we're going back to Sam Keith now again, when the first lizard story before we did it was written about the time when Sam and I were doing stories together. And Sam actually came up with this storyline with lizards. And we were going to work on it, but then Sam started getting more work from, I think it was about the time he started getting work from like Kamiko and some of the other publishers. And so I took kind of the basic concept, or not even really the basic concept. I took the two main characters Sam and I had came up with was the father and the son. And I took those characters and just basically created a whole different world, than what, because the series that Sam and I had come up with was going to be nothing like what I ended up coming up with. His was going to be a lot more magical and fantasy oriented. So I just took that idea and just continued to use the lizards. And part of the reason I think I kept it lizards and then make it people was, in comics, you do have comics with, like you can do with regular people and stuff, but comics is such a visual medium. I thought showing them, keeping them as lizards and keeping them a little different would maybe help sell the story,
Sure.
maybe draw in people's attention. And plus, Fantagraphics had their Critters anthology, and I thought, well, there's some place I could theoretically sell it to if they're talking animals. If they were all just talking people, it was going to be a lot harder to sell.
Yes.
So I kept them as lizards, and and I actually did sell it to Fantagraphics Critters book.
That makes perfect sense. Mike says, sounds like the 90s sitcom Dinosaurs set in DC Comics Commandi's future world.
Could be a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, guys, the link to this is pinned in the chat. It's also below. So go check out this campaign. You have like bundles. So if you scroll, you have a lot of perks. So you can find a lot of perks. And below you have like bundles. So you get discounts here and there. So go check it out, guys. This is purely digital. So you will have your files fairly soon when you back this. And go share it, please. So share it on social media. Let other people know about this campaign, right? Because this is the fun with indie comics, man. You have something for everyone, and you have a lot of original material here, John. Great. Right. So, is there anything? Before we close off, John, is there anything we forgot to mention?
The only other thing I'd like to mention, and there's no place to go to it yet, I do have a Kickstarter. It should be the sign up page should be dropping this week. It was originally supposed to be out a little earlier, but I've actually hired some people to create the Kickstarter page because they can do a lot better job for that than I did. And the Kickstarter page is looking really great. For Vampires versus Zombies.
Vampires versus Zombies. This is fantastic title.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I've been. This has been a story that's been in my mind for literally years. And I kept thinking somebody has used this already. Someone had, and I've looked.
It has.
I haven't seen it. I'm not going to say somewhere. Somebody's going to come up with, here's a Vampire versus Zombie comic. But I haven't seen it yet, so I'm going with it. And it should be, the sign-up page should drop this week. We'll do a month of, trying to get sign-ups. And then, so for probably about a month from now, which will be like the end of July, it'll go live.
Mhm.
I just think this is really cool. Jorge, the artist for Akimi, is doing the art in it. He's did an outstanding job. It's a fun comic. There's the vampires and zombies. There's the fight. There's a lot of that in there, but there's also more in it than just the fighting. At the end of this story, it's kind of a story about motherhood, which you'll be able to see when the book comes out. So, I mean, I'm always trying to put something else into a comic than just, and there's nothing wrong with, having a brainless fighting, comic, but I like to add a little bit more to it. My main character, the main character of the book, who's the guy that gets in the middle of all this, is Enoch. And he's a character that I've had like probably a decade. I've been trying to figure something out to use with him in.
Right.
So there's a lot going into this series besides just the vampires and the zombies fighting. Jorge draws some really, really cool vampires and zombies. And we have some really cool fight scenes in there. And it's going to be a cool comic, I think. It's good. So look for that this week when we get ready to drop it for the signups. I'll be posting it everywhere. You'll see. I'm on every social media site, either under my own name or Diebold Comics. I have a Substack. So I will be posting. I post a lot when things like this drop. I'll post in most of the Facebook comic groups. In fact, I post so much that some of them are basically, I'm like 5 or 6 posts that they're reviewing. I wish they would just, tell me, we're not going to do it. Just, but every time I see, you have 5 posts pending.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah,
some of these admins just don't do anything.
And then a year from now, and it's happened. I had a campaign over a year old that's been done with. I've got posts that they'll finally approve it, and it's like, it's not helping any now,
Yes, thank you so much, admin. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I'd rather they just drop me from the group if that's the case, because I don't need to be in it because it's not doing anything. But so that should be out this week. I originally was posting that we're going to go live at the beginning of July, but like I said, we're going to be a little late, but we shouldn't be more than I don't even think we'll be a month late, but probably about 3 weeks late. But I wanted to get it right. I wanted to get it where it looked really perfect. That's going to be for the print edition, and that book is 100% done. So when we drop it, you don't have to worry about is it going to get finished? Are they going to be able to finish it in time? It's 100% done. So all you'll have to wait for is me to send it to the printer, and you'll get it. It's going to be 24 pages of comics and 8 pages of pinups and text pieces, because I'm going to have a text piece in there basically where I write about the creation of where I came up with ideas for the characters, where I came up with ideas for the comic. I'm a sucker for the behind the scenes of stuff. Like I always like to read the behind the scenes of how the book was written, or how the movie was made, or how the comic was made.
Yes.
I'm a sucker for that. So I try to put that in a lot of the stuff I do. So it's going to be 32 pages, at least 32 pages at the end, with 24 pages of comic. It's going to be a four issue arc. We're going to do 4 issues. We'll tell the storyline. And then after that, we may continue the character, but we may not. We may bring him into like fighting different monsters or demons or something.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. Mike says vampires versus zombies. That's like the subjects revolting against the royalty. Movie blood is corn syrup, John.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Guys, go follow John. His X account is also linked below this video. Go follow him. So he will post the pre-launch page when it's done, and you can follow all of that. All right, John. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, guys. Before we close off, I need to share something else. I am working on my own thing, so let's share this tab for a moment on Kickstarter right now. So we were supposed to be live with this campaign since yesterday, but Kickstarter didn't approve yet. I had to censor some things, as you can see right here on this page. So So hopefully next week they will approve, and we can then we will launch next Saturday, right? So you can still get notified. This is the pre-launch page. So Safeguard Pandemonium. It's my first like superhero team book, right? I've written like a billion comics, but this is my first superhero team book. And if you have followed the Perfect 10 series, you will recognize most of these characters. They joined together, they formed this team, right? And they are fighting brand new villains that I created specifically for this story. So I'm working together with Alan Goldman. So Alan Goldman made the first cover A. Fantastic work. It's inked by Thiago Gomez, color by Brian McNaye. Then Paul Rodriguez, artist of the Perfect 10 series, he was brought on to do the cover, the B cover, right? Because I'm just a fan of Pau, man, and Pau kicks ass. So look at this. This is fantastic B cover, and the back cover is also drawn by Pau, and it features all the new villains. So the new villains I came up with, they are they are magnificent. They are fantastic. So so this, guys, I will put it in the chat. Put it in the chat right now, but it's also linked below the video, right? So you can find it there. Also, you still have time to get notified for the launch. And when we launch, guys, so during the live stream, Alan will be with me, and we will be so if you back during the launch stream, then your name will go into a raffle, and at the end of the campaign, one of you guys will win a original comic book page drawn by Alan Goldman. Right. And guys, I have something else also on FundMyComic that I want to share. This is Crossbones Crew issue 1. It features like familiar characters, the Black Terror, for instance, and I wrote this. So this is, I was hired to do the script, to do the writing. I'm very proud of it, and I would like to continue with more issues. So please help fund this campaign, right? So it has wonderful art by Joel Souza. It's so cool, and it's all ages. So it's a fun comic book for all ages. It was challenging to write, but a lot of fun, and I hope you'll check it out. I will also put this in the chat. Right, there we go, guys, and it's also below the video. So stop sharing. All right, let's see if I missed anything. Also, boo to Kickstarter, says Mike, because that Pandemonium woman's assets always draw my eyes first on a rapper. I know, but for some reason.
One of the things I don't understand with Kickstarter is I've seen Kickstarters that they've allowed that was a lot, more provocative than what you just shown. It's like they need to come up with a set of guidelines and stick to it, because it just, sometimes I feel like it depends on what day of the week it is.
Yes. Sometimes it feels kind of random, but
yeah. And maybe I'm getting a new Kickstarter to start, so I probably shouldn't talk bad about them right now. But
no, I have no complaints. I have no complaints either. I'm like, sure, man, tell me what to change. I'm just happy that they contacted me and told me specifically. They actually told me specifically which parts of the page needed to be altered.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that, because I have been like what you call it, like not blacklisted, something else through Indiegogo. They did something similar, and they never told me what the problem was.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, John, thank you so much, sir, for being my guest for today.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed this a lot. Hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. When your campaign goes live, or you have something new to showcase, just reach out, sir.
I will.
And, you're always welcome. And special thanks to the chat, to everyone who showed up today to watch us. Thank you so much. If you're watching from the replay, thank you. If you like this conversation, give it a like. If you didn't like the conversation, give it a dislike, and I'm very sorry. Saturday, hopefully Saturday, guys, the launch of Safeguard on Kickstarter. I hope you'll be there. It's 2 p.m. EST, so same time as this show, basically. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see you guys there. Mike says, thank you both, Jens. Great looking indie campaigns. All three shown here. Take care and have a great week. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. All right, John. Thank you. Thank you, chat. And see you all next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.